Good evening. I hereby call the Ordinance Committee of the Brockton City Council for Tuesday, November 25th, 6:10 p.m. to order. The committee is made up of Councilor Rodriguez, Councilor Farwell, Councilor Texera, and Councilor Griffin, and myself. As soon as you're ready, Madam Clerk, we can start with item number 1.
Item number 1, ordinance. An ordinance amending Chapter 8, Section 8-9 of the revised ordinance to increase the trash disposal fee to $440 annually, billed in quarterly increments of $110. Invited to attend, David Texera, Councilor at Large, Dr. Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Patrick Hale, DPW Commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. CFO or Commissioner, whoever wants to start first.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll kick it off, and then Commissioner Hill can certainly talk about the operational issues related to this. This is actually a continuation of something that was on your agenda back in the spring. We filed this back in the spring and shared with you some data about the refuse operation. As you know, we just entered into a new multi-year contract with our provider, and although that contract is certainly competitive in the marketplace, it is expensive. And so what we shared with you back in the spring was that it was important to make an adjustment in the rates for us to be able to have sufficient revenue to run the operation. As you know, refuse operates under an enterprise fund, and if there aren't sufficient revenues in the enterprise fund, the general fund covers those additional expenses. And as I mentioned to you back in the spring, and then again a few weeks ago, last year, because we did not raise rates, the revenues were not sufficient. And once our free cash is certified, I'll be coming to you at the first meeting of the next week, actually, for a transfer from certified free cash for about $130,000 to cover last year's balance in the enterprise fund. And so what happens when that imbalance occurs is that the general fund supports the enterprise fund, and that's not the purpose of it. So I know it's challenging to increase any fee, and I know that we try very hard, and we do, to keep our fees the lowest possible. But what we're trying to do also is to keep the refuse enterprise fund solvent. And so we believe that the fee that's before you, and that's a $20 per quarter increase in the fee, will keep that enterprise fund solvent for this year and next. So the spreadsheet that we've provided to you shows you what the current revenue picture is and where we believe we'll be. So should you agree to increase the rate for $20 per quarter, effective back to July 1st, we think that for this year, that the enterprise fund should have approximately $365,000 in additional revenue, which is important to generate some surpluses. As you know, we use those retained earnings for equipment purchases, or if things break, or if there's unforeseen expenses. So every fee increase is more than we want to do, but we think that $20 a quarter is responsible and conservative, and will allow us to meet our obligations and not have the general fund have to cover those expenses. So with your permission, Madam Chair, I'll yield to the Commissioner, who can talk about the operational impacts and the work of the refuse enterprise.
Thank you.
I mean, operationally, based on the contract, nothing will change in this contract, and I think it's important to note that the level of service that we provide here in Brockton is second to none. I mean, I've spoken with communities, cities, other gateway cities outside of Brockton that don't provide the level of service we do, certainly not for the cost that we do. You know, the solid waste market has been pretty challenging lately with issues trying to get rid of recycling. I spoke with, before this contract was renewed, I spoke with a couple of our local trash companies who are big players in the state of Massachusetts. And when we presented them with the cost of the contract, they didn't even want to touch it. They didn't even want to have a conversation. So we're doing a lot better than most communities, and the level of service is, like I said, second to none.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councilors, Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Commissioner, you made reference to other communities that we provide a better service than some of the folks in the other communities. How are our rates compared to those communities? First, the communities around us, and second, the so-called gateway cities or cities of similar size as Brockton.
So it's very difficult to compare apples to apples, right? So
How about apples and oranges?
So the one community that I could find that offered this level of service that was actually involved in a contract negotiation was the city of New Bedford. They had basically the same style of service that the city of Brockton has. They did, trash every week, recycling. They did not do as much yard waste pickup as we do, but they had white goods, televisions, mattresses, all the other stuff, the extras that we get. They went out to contract, or to bid, and when the bids came back, they were so high that they had to do an a la carte kind of thing. So they asked the vendors to kind of carve those services up and to see what they could still afford under their fee, which was very comparable to Brockton's. They ended up only doing trash and recycling. So, if you want more services in New Bedford, you have to pay for them. But that's where the market is at. We, sat back down with Republic, who is our vendor, and tried to come up with a resolution because they were hesitant to sign this deal as they were the last deal. They have the language in the contract to take that route. So we sat down and negotiated and came up with a cost. And we thought that cost was fair, and we thought that we could handle that cost with the increased trash rates. But the trash rates prior to that would have had to have gone up anyway.
If I could just supplement what Pat was saying, I actually cut my teeth in public finance working for the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund in Bourne, so I'm familiar with how different communities treat solid waste. And I think that's an important question, Councilor, because here in Brockton, you can put bulkies, like old furniture, out on the street, and we take mattresses. In a lot of communities, you have to pay a lot of extra for that. So I think it's important for the public to talk about that, about what you actually get for that fee, and that what's wrapped up in that fee is a lot more than you would get in other communities. And we, it might not be a bad idea, even though some are smaller towns and it is tough to sort of apples to apples it. We can put a comparison together so that the public can see that despite the challenge of increasing fees, what you get for that is certainly, we believe, better than what you get in other communities.
Troy, one of the issues that we have is there's a lot of people who are on fixed income in the sense, or smaller couples, husband and wife, or whatever that setup might be, that does not have the items that you're talking about. And when we come across and we decide to put a fee across the board, we're almost kind of punishing those that don't need punishing. So I personally would like to see something done in terms of, where we reduce the costs to those individuals that do not put out as much trash as other individuals do. And the individuals that have the mattresses, the furniture, some of those other things that we're making all part of this whole package, pay for those items. Because it's not fair for, I don't know, not in my case, but let's say it's myself and my spouse, and we have very little trash, for me to pay exact the same thing that Council Farwell might have with 50 kids living in it and a handful of in-laws and all that other stuff living in it. You're trashy. So I don't think that's fair, looking at it saying, why should I pay for his trash, in the sense that it should be something that we ought to look into. And who determines who actually pays fees and how much those fees are? Because I know we charge like $20 per mattresses to get rid of mattresses.
Those fees are all set in the ordinance.
By ordinance as well?
Yes.
It is?
I believe so. Actually, you know what? I think the fees, I think I have to come before you if I want to increase fees. I think that's how it's written, actually.
We did that just a few years ago when we added the mattresses and the couch that's over
Yeah, anything
Aside.
over 5 feet,
Right.
yeah.
But anything
mattress.
smaller than that, it's free.
Anything smaller than 5 feet, it's free, any large bulk item.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, is that I don't think it's fair to, a small family that actually has very little trash, to all of a sudden pay for somebody else's trashes, where things are being just left out there for people to take out. Because I honestly don't think, at least from conversations that I've had with the councilors that are even sitting in this committee, I don't think this thing is going to pass, to be honest with you. I don't see it passing, only because, again, it blankets charges across the board, hurting those individuals that are having a tough time making ends meet, continue to have a tough time making ends meet. So I don't want to speak for anybody on this committee in the sense, but I honestly don't think it's going to get a positive vote out of here, to be honest with you. But I think if we look into, taking it and splitting it up in the sense and saying, you know what, we're going to go on these, up on the fees of items that are causing the cost of this contract to go up, I think it's an easier take for a lot of us. But in conversations with the folks in this community, they're up to here with these fees and charges in the sense. So I don't see how this is actually going to move forward, and I'm going to leave it up to my colleagues to kind of chime in on this, but I don't see it passing, to be honest with you. Again, if we somehow went in and took a deeper dive into this thing and figured out a way to, perhaps instead of $20 per mattress, maybe we need to change it to $40. A piece of furniture, if you're cleaning your whole house, you need to pay for that stuff. There are companies out there that charge you to take away those trashes. I bought a refrigerator not too long ago. In order for me to dispose it, I had to pay for it. So I think it's fair to charge individuals to have those things done, but not across the board. And that's just the way I see it, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you,
So
Counselor.
just to touch on that, on a couple of things, Counselor, these rates are negotiated at the rate of 26,000 services, right? So when you look at other communities, when you look at other trash fees, there's an obligation to have a trash service at your house per ordinance, regardless. So there is no forgiveness. If you don't have a trash service and it's not provided to you by the city, then you have to come to the refuse department every quarter with receipts saying that you have a dumpster, some way to get rid of your trash. So these rates are lower than any individual is going to be able to go out and negotiate. And I don't disagree with you that some people don't put out as much trash, but it would be nearly impossible, certainly with the staff that I have, to try to monitor something like that. Anybody that qualifies for 41C qualifies for free trash service. So anybody in a lower income bracket that qualifies for tax relief also gets a free trash service. And I want to say that's probably 5% maybe, or maybe a little bit more of the overall 26,000 accounts. And if you put your refrigerator out and you had to pay for it, you could have put it out for free. You just have to take the doors off.
Really?
Yeah. We picked those up too. Those are
Tell
white
me about
goods.
it now, right? Thank you.
Counselor Fowler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me start by admitting that obviously the cost of taking solid waste away is getting more expensive. After 24 years in elected office, I think I know a little bit about how things work, or should work. And I'm more concerned with the process behind this. We had a trash removal service with a contract. We knew when that was ending. So at some point, we entered into discussions with the trash hauler, in this case, Republic Waste. And apparently a decision was made to stay with them, but knowing that it was going to be more expensive. So am I going to go into a car dealership and buy a car, and it's a 4-year contract, but I only have the money for 2 years? I haven't identified where the revenue is coming from for the last 2 years. Why would we enter into a contract before you have the funding piece in place? I just find that illogical, and I find it very difficult to defend. And I know I have a reputation for perhaps being too much into research, but I want to call your attention to Section 9 of Chapter 324 of the Acts of 1990, which is a law in effect now. No official of the city of Brockton, except in the case of an emergency involving the health and safety of the people or their property, shall knowingly expend or cause to be expended in any fiscal year any sum in excess of such official's departmental or other governmental units appropriation duly made in accordance with law, nor commit the city, nor cause it to be committed to any obligation for the future payment of money in excess of such appropriation. Well, if we, and it's a team effort, if we didn't have the funding piece in place, in my opinion, what should have happened is you enter into negotiations with Republic. Perhaps we have a representative from the company come in, as we do with Aquaria. We get to talk with them. We ask them, what can you do for the city? Can we change perhaps the level of services? Maybe we don't pick up yard waste every week during the period we do. Maybe we do something different. We look at options. But instead, we charge ahead and we engage with that Republic Waste for another contractual period, but you don't have the money. And now it falls on our desk. And I just think that that is not, I would like to see that process changed in the coming 2 years, that before we enter into a commitment, before we sign a contract, we come to the council and we say, how are we going to fund it, folks? That's my first observation.
In this highly charged environment in which we operate today, I need to offer a couple of clarifying points. We did not and would never enter into a contract for which we didn't have the funds. What I explained at the beginning of this meeting was the enterprise fund operates as a self-contained entity, and if there are not sufficient revenues in the enterprise fund, the general fund picks up those differences. So, but it's important, in addition to that, that I explain the process that we went through to get to this contract. The contract for the transportation and disposal of solid waste is specifically exempt from Chapter 30B from procurement. So the city was and is under no obligation to conduct any sort of competitive process. However, in the interest of our taxpayers and ratepayers, Pat did a lot of work. And we actually had discussions and negotiations with several companies about offering services for trash pickup. And because of that process and the pressure that it put on Republic, we believe that the end result in this current contract was much lower, perhaps millions of dollars over the course of the contract lower than it otherwise would have been. So I just want to assure you, Councilor, that we always act with the ratepayers and the taxpayers in mind. If you look at the increased costs of solid waste disposal as an industry, it has skyrocketed over the last several years. And I think that the Commissioner has done an excellent job in containing costs to the increases that we're seeing. So as we move forward to the next contract, happy to have a conversation with the next mayor about how those contract negotiations go and whether or not there's a role for the council. But I don't want anyone watching this to think that we simply signed a contract and then said, we'll worry about the funds later, because that we have an obligation, as Pat mentioned, under an ordinance to provide trash services to a higher level than most communities. And then we looked at the financial impact of that, trying to make sure it minimized the impact on our ratepayers.
And I understand all that you've said, and I appreciate the efforts that went into it. But the fact of the matter is we have extended the contract, knowing that the enterprise fund revenue stream was insufficient, and now we're here tonight to address that.
Right, but remember, we came for the first time back in May.
Yes, you did. But it was insufficient back then.
Absolutely.
We knew there was supposed to be a change, but yet we still went forward. And now we have a contract now with Republic ending in what year? 2027, 28?
27.
2027, and that is my problem. I just think you get your funding piece in place. You find out exactly how you're going to pay for something before you charge ahead and do it. And this, And I'm glad the election is over, because otherwise someone would say, oh, he's grandstanding, he's being political. Having just come through the campaign and listening to hundreds of people, it isn't the $80. It's the fact that homeowners insurance goes up. It's the fact that car insurance goes up. It's the fact that I went into Shaw's recently to get a quart of light cream. Hood light cream at Shaw's, I think, was $5.37. It's everything going up. Heating oil eventually will go up as we get into the winter months. And the people on Social Security, yeah, they're going to get a 2.8% increase, but I understand they're going to get killed when they increase the cost for Medicare. And so if you add all of it together, you have people who are significantly falling behind financially, and I think that's why many of us would like to see a menu of options, some information. I'd love to have someone from Republic come in. By the way, the people who pick up at my house do a great job. No complaints. They're there almost, I can set the clock by them on a Thursday. But I can't sit back here and just allow fees to go up, really no appreciable change in service, however good the service is, and not speak for the people who are getting croaked financially from a whole different set of circumstances. And I hope that you know that I respect the work that you've done. I do respect the fact that disposal of solid waste costs are going up, but somebody has to speak for people who are getting squeezed. And I just think that's important. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Texera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question will go for Dr. Clark. When was the last time that we went up on the rate for the revenue?
2023, 2 years ago.
So 2 years ago. And before that, when was the last time?
2002.
Yeah.
Okay. So if this goes through, within 2.5 years, let me put it this way, we're going to go up 58% on the trash can.
Yeah, I think that large gap, Councilor, from 2002 to 2023 had a pretty significant impact. We were running off of retained earnings every year. It was certainly enough to pay for the contract at the time. However, like in 2017, when this contract was initially signed, the cost of solid waste disposal was $59 a ton. That cost is $90 a ton. The cost of recycling at that point was cheaper, and now recycling costs are $113 or $114 a ton. So the costs have kind of skyrocketed, with inflation, with COVID, with the rates that we pay, because we have to pay prevailing wage rates to the drivers. And I'm sure everybody knows exactly what just happened in Boston. They had they had a strike in Boston, Republic actually, based on prevailing wage rates. We didn't want that to happen here. The competitive contract that we have and this level of service that we have, we knew this was going to be an issue. In 2023, we actually asked for this amount, and we were given $90. So we knew that this was coming. We put this in front of the council years ago, and we were grateful to get the $20 at the time, but we need another $20 to sustain the enterprise.
So back in 2023, when it came before the council,
We had asked for $110 a quarter, knowing that these costs were what they were.
that was kind of
And Counselor, just to follow up on that, because Pat raised a really good point. We were mindful, obviously, when we came in 2023 and coming now, and I said it at the beginning, we understand that any increase is a challenge. We're trying to balance the increasing costs that Pat talked about and trying to make sure that this enterprise and all of the enterprises pay their own way so that we don't have to go back then and ask the general fund. But in July, when that strike was in Boston, we were faced with if we didn't have a renewed contract, with the very real possibility that the resources from here would go elsewhere and that we wouldn't have had trash pickup at all. And as we were getting close to July 1st, Pat will tell you, those were some pretty stressful days, trying to figure out how best to engage and renew to make sure that the people of Brockton had trash pickup at all, because of how thinly stretched the resources was because of the strike in Boston. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, just to give you some perspective about how that played into our thoughts about making sure that that trash pickup was occurring at all.
It's going to be hard for, especially for fixed income. And we all know everything's going up, like Council Farwell just mentioned that, a quart for, cream is five and change. And for us to throw another $20 per quarter, that's $80 a year. It's going to be hard on certain people. And I think we should definitely see what's the other option that we have.
I mean, right now, we're in a signed agreement, right? So I guess that at this point, the decision will be whether the general fund will pick up the next year or year and a half of service. I will tell you that if the goal is to try to get to some other level of service, certainly we would probably put something together in an RFP style fashion, do the a la carte model like they did in New Bedford, try to figure out what services cost what. But it's all or nothing kind of with these trash companies. It's not, hey, I can have solid waste I can have yard waste and I don't want yard waste, so I'm not going to pay that. It's either the community engages as a whole or they don't engage at all. So some of those a la carte services, white goods, yard waste, CRT stuff, mattresses, all those things will be on an a la carte basis. Even with mattresses, and I'm sure you're familiar with the mattress world, right? We charge $20 to get rid of a mattress here in Brockton, but it costs you, at the minimum, if you bring it yourself to the facility that rips those apart, $30. Every other community, when we checked, was either $40 or above. Some of the communities were $75. Some of the communities were $85. Some of the communities didn't offer any service to get rid of mattresses, and we get rid of them for $20.
So I think we should go up a little bit on the mattress then. That's going to be.
But little things do make a big difference. We made an adjustment in the bag schedule where we were getting, it was $5 for 5 bags before, now it's $5 for 4 bags. And just that little change brings nightmares. So I understand the hesitation with the $20, but the costs are what they are, and we've committed to those costs at least for the next year and a half.
So that's one of the reasons that we got to think about especially the senior citizens, the one that's.
We do work with a lot of senior citizens. Like I said, anybody that qualifies for 41C does get a free trash service. So anybody that's in that lower income level.
For the benefit of the public that's watching that may not understand what 41C is, it's a means-tested abatement, and so you can get a break on your property taxes if you fit certain income requirements. So for anyone that's watching that has questions on that, can reach out to the commissioner or to my office, and we have folks that'll help walk you through that, because the reduction is not only in trash fees, but in property taxes and other fees as well.
And I would challenge the public too, the City of Brockton trash service is not mandated. It's just mandated that you have a trash service. So if people feel like they can make a phone call to a trash service and get a better price, they don't have to go with the City of Brockton's price. That's just the price that we negotiated. But I can tell you that their level of service will be significantly different.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Counselor.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
You said this is a new contract, so were other vendors vetted?
We spoke with Capital Waste and we spoke with Harvey, both when we had, kind of settled on a price point. At least we had an idea where we thought we were going to be. We had discussions with Capital Waste. They came in the next day. I sat him down. We started talking. I explained to him what price point we were at. He's like, I can't touch that. He couldn't touch that 2 years prior to that. And same with Harvey. They couldn't touch that 2 years prior to that.
So Republic was the lowest bid?
Republic was the lowest bid.
Okay. I agree with Councilor Rodriguez. I think some of the ancillary services we offer for trash removal, mattresses, appliances and such, they should be raised up. I'd rather put the burden on the people that need that taken away than the average everyday homeowner who needs to put their recyclables and trash out each and every week. Because a lot of these people, as you know, they're on fixed incomes, and they're getting squeezed 9 ways to Sunday. And we just raised this a couple of years ago, I believe, the trash fee,
2023.
2023, it's about
Yep.
2 years ago. It's a lot to ask of the residents, and I'm not criticizing you or Dr. Clarkson on this. I understand it is an expensive entity and a necessary one. But I think we should restructure that with the, the sidewalk pickers with mattresses and other big furnitures and that type of stuff. Raise those fees up to kind of offset some of this, and I think the residents would benefit from having their own weekly services not being escalating each and every year.
I don't disagree that some of those fees should go up. I certainly don't. I think we need to take a better look at those services, the mattress fees, the bag fees, stuff that does bring revenue into the department. I can tell you that those fees are not consistent. So, bag sales are, we get a percentage of bag sales, and Republic gets a percentage of bag sales because they're the ones that manufacture the bags, they're the ones that deliver the bags. So we get a percentage, I think 40% of the bag sales come back to the enterprise. So we do see a little bit of money that comes in from that. Mm-hmm. But what I'm concerned about when we start talking about raising fees on those things is also illegal dumpings, because we've seen a significant pickup in illegal dumpings. Mm-hmm. So once you start charging more for things, people tend to just want to get rid of them as opposed to going $20 for a mattress. If we went up to $30 a mattress, okay. If we went up to $50 a mattress, there'd be mattresses all around the city of Brockton, and we'd be picking them up. So I think, to be fair, we're trying to kind of do it kind of across the board on the fee side of things. And, the fear of illegal dumpings, it's bad enough as it is. I mean, we've seen a significant uptick. We've also seen a significant success rate in catching some of these people recently with some new technologies. But, it's not, with the rates that we have, it almost encourages people to bring stuff here anyway. So when you go to the same single-family house 6 weeks in a row to pick up 12 mattresses, well, somebody's probably charging somebody to pick up the mattress. They're paying $20, and they're probably charging the person $100 to get rid of it, So we try to keep those things in mind, but we want to keep those costs fair, too, so.
Just, our team did conduct a survey, and we can provide this to you, to look at area communities. And I won't go through all of them, but just in sort of mid-Plymouth County, East Bridgewater is 50, Halifax is 50 to 100, Hanson 50, Pembroke 50, Hanover 50, Rockland 50, Abington 50, Easton 47, Stoughton 50, Avon 70, Randolph 50, and Weymouth 47. So, and we're 20. So there is an opportunity there to make some adjustments, being mindful of the potential impact that Pat talked about. But we can certainly take a look at, and that's just for that. Then there's white goods and bulkies. And
those are the white goods, the bulkies. Those things are figured into the service. If it's a bulky over 5 feet, then it has to be paid for. But all of those services are built into the trash fee. The white goods and the CRT things. And
Dr. Clarkson, I have a question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you think if the fees for the mattresses, appliances, and other hard goods that are picked up, furniture, and et cetera, were raised, would that be enough to offset some of this type of increase?
I would say likely not, but we certainly can, we want to work with you. So we can go back
What do you
and
think could
do
be
some
reduced
figuring.
with those procedures put in place? I know you're just guessing, but hypothetically, what type of savings?
Well, honestly, I'm thinking on the fly here, so I just want to be clear about
I
that. But some of the other items that are now included in the fee, I think one of the potential revenue stream creators that we could implement is to look at things that are picked up for free now, instituting a fee. And as Pat mentioned, that would need your assent. We could take a look at, if we did that, what kind of revenue it would create. Honestly, I'm guessing probably not the amount that we need to cover that contract for the next 2 years, but maybe we have a graduated smaller increase in the fee, and then we'll create additional fees, which would be consistent with what Councilor Rodriguez said, is sort of pay-as-you-go, so that people that are disposing of more mattresses and appliances are paying for them, and then the fee is lower for people that simply have the trash pickup. We can take a look at that, just with the understanding that the closer we get to June 30th, we'll keep you apprised. And I provide you with those reports every month anyway of our expenses and the revenues, so you can monitor how close we are to our revenue goal for the year and what the subsidy will need to be. And so that's my suggestion. We're happy to come back with an alternative proposal with the understanding that the closer we get to July 1st, the more likely it is that we'll have to subsidize the operation.
I think we have a little bit of time. I would like to see those numbers with those increases, where we could be at. One other question. I get this calls from residents quite a bit. The size of the receptacle for the rubbish. Now, I only have 2 people in my house. We're okay with it. Families of 4 or better, I get a constant complaint that the receptacle is just too small.
So when we bid the contract out, we bid on the per ton, right? So the city of Brockton dumps about 26,000 tons of solid waste every year. So 26,000 tons based off of the average week in that 32-gallon and the excess of, because it's not just the ratepayers that pay. I mean, it's not just the ratepayers that get service, it's the schools, it's, you know, some of the schools anyway, the city buildings, covers that 26,000. So in order to get more, we would have to ask for more. If we ask for more tonnage, it's gonna shoot the cost up.
Okay. One last question for Dr. Clarkson. You know, you gave some stats of some of the towns that charge, $40, $50, $60, $70 to pick up hard goods on the sidewalk. What are their yearly trash fees in those towns?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know we've compiled some of that data, so we can get it to you. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know we do have it.
Yeah, in most communities that you see, the towns, when people that enter into agreements with their own trash hauler, I know like the average rates, they're between about $130 and $140 a quarter, and that is strictly for trash and recycling. Yeah, you do get the bigger trash barrel, and you get the recycling every other week, just like we do, but that's it.
No yard waste.
No yard waste, yeah, no white goods, no other, large items.
And I believe, Counselor, that many of those fees that I cited, and those were for mattresses, are drop-off only. So you have to take, for instance, Hanover, the community that I worked in before I came here to Brockton, there was no curbside pickup at all, paid for by the town. The transfer station was free with payment for bulkies and mattresses. They just instituted, I think, a $300 annual fee to get into the transfer station at all, and then you still pay for those bulkies on top of it. So it's a regional challenge. So we'll do our best to come up with some data so that you can make a well-informed decision and hopefully get as close as we can to that target number.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Like I said, I'd like to see those numbers squeezed the best we can, because this is a big burden on a lot of our residents in the city.
And I think if we come back, or when we come back, because I'm assuming we're coming back, that the request will be to whatever cost we come up with for the actual fee itself, but it'll be on top of the additional fees on the other piece of the ordinance as it is. Or not the ordinance, on the additional trash fees.
Understood.
Yep.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. So in questioning coming back with the information, so in order for this to pass this year, it would have to pass favorably this evening to make it through City Council and get the votes. But January, we will have a new legislative session, and whichever way this goes this evening, I would suggest, getting that information then and moving forward. Counselor Fowler, you wanted to...
I just had a comment to both of you. At some point, free cash will be certified, and that will free up some money that can be used to offset any deficit in this particular enterprise account. And just speaking for myself, I have no problem using that. I mean, free cash is the money left over after all of the bills are paid from the prior fiscal year, for those who maybe watch this program at home, and that's our money, that's residents' money. Those are the payments that have been made faithfully by the men and women who receive tax bills or bills for fees and paid them. And I have no problem using their money now to offset any trash disposal fee increase, because it just seems prudent that we do that. So again, I'm only one vote, but if you choose to do that, you will certainly have my support.
Good, and as I mentioned, you will have on the next Monday's Finance Committee agenda for the previous year, for '24, of about $130,000.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
An appropriation of free cash to cover the refuse.
And then the last thing is, obviously, we're going to set the tax rate at some point. And I do think some people are going to have some shock when they get their tax bill. So that's why this $80 may seem inconsequential. But again, in the aggregate, with what everyone has to pay just to live in the city now, it adds up, and it's concerning to people. Thank you.
All set, councilors? Okay. So as mentioned, in order for this to pass this year, it would have to pass, that's why we scheduled this for this evening,
Yep.
because this is the deadline for it to be able to make it back to city council. I will entertain a
For the
motion.
sake of moving it forward, I make a motion that we recommend this item to the full city council, one way or the other.
Okay, well, I think you have to pick one or the other.
No, I'm saying
Oh.
after the vote.
So,
And then I make a motion to table it, and we'll
And I'll
discuss it in
second it.
January.
Yeah,
a motion to,
I'll make a motion to table.
Well, how many motions do you
oh,
want?
we already have a motion.
Oh, you
Need a
have a motion.
second.
Oh.
20 motions already?
So motion's been made to table and properly seconded. All those in favor of tabling? The matter is tabled.
Thank you.
In the meantime,
Thank
though,
you.
we should get
In the
those-
meantime, we will look,
Get those
We'll work with you.
the future committee will look for that information that we
Well,
have
even if you
requested
can
this
get,
evening.
even if you can get it before then, just so
I
that
think-
all of us can get.
Sure.
We should be able to compile it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, even though the new ordinance committee won't be seated until January, we
January.
can get this information to you soon,
Right.
so that whomever is going to sit on the committee will have access to it.
Well, I know it's not going to be me.
Where you going?
Are you sure? You might miss us and want to come back.
I do, already.
Madam Clerk, item number 2.
Item number 2, ordinance. An ordinance amending Article 3, Division 2, Section 2-137, vacation leave, to amend vacation leave and personal days. Invited to attend, Jack Lally, Ward 5 Counselor, Dr. Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Mr.
Madam
CFO.
Chair. This also was asked to be put back on your agenda because of the close of the legislative session. Just to refresh the memories of the members of the Ordinance Committee, this was a request really to just create parity. So we provided you tonight a spreadsheet, and that's updated. We provided one of these to you before when this was filed also last spring. This was updated to reflect the results of some of the collective bargaining agreements that the mayor has executed. In deference to, in recognition of the fact that we're doing some long-range financial planning and trying to come up with a long-range plan to both address the needs of the schools, but also the needs of the city. Generally, we've been entering into one-year contracts that will provide the new mayor the opportunity to negotiate three-year contracts for what I think are very modest wage increases. Again, the percentage wage increases that we've settled for generally have been 1.5%, which is, I think, extremely modest given what's happening around us and even what's happening with the schools. So I think that's some very good news. What this ordinance will do will be to allow for the accrual of vacation time for ordinance employees. Not all ordinance employees, but many of them are the administrators who are leading this community. And the way the vacation ordinance is set up, you actually have to work almost a year before you get any vacation time. And so what we're trying to do is what is the standard today in local government, and that is that employees accrue vacation time as they work. I think that is a standard in public service, and it has become one of the many challenges in attracting talent here, requiring people to work nearly a year before they can use any vacation time. People, single-parent families or people with young families, that makes it very difficult. The other issue is the ability to take personal days. As you can see in this spreadsheet that I've provided you, the norm is 4. Some have 5, some have 3, but the ordinance employees have none. So there's a challenge with the way vacation time is accrued, but also the inability to take personal days. And so what we're trying to do is provide those ordinance employees with the opportunity to have time off. What's being asked is very reasonable. It's in line with what the rest of our employees receive. But it does provide us the ability. I know of at least 2 instances where we were recruiting for senior level positions, and when potential employees were briefed on what the vacation and personal day situation was, they declined to take the position. But I think that it's also important for the employees that we have here in the city who come to work and work hard every day, that we provide them with the ability to have a work-life balance. And so that's what this request is before you. Obviously, I'm here because we had a team of ordinance employees that had worked on this for some time, but as your CFO, I'm here. I would benefit from this, although I've been here for 7 years now, so the vacation issue is not an issue for me. It was when I first arrived, and I'll tell you, after I'd been here for a month, I had a planned vacation with my wife, and I took that vacation without pay. And I understand folks that are in the private sector deal with that all the time, but we need to attract and retain the best talent, and time off means a lot, especially to the younger generation. So that's the request before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. CFO. Councilor Fowler.
I only have one objection, Dr. Claxon, and it's Article 3, Section 2-137, Item K, vacation credit for prior experience. And if my memory serves, I spoke out on a prior meeting that I was concerned that someone could come from another community. And yes, we do want to attract experienced people, but they could end up with more vacation time than perhaps a department head who had been faithfully serving us for 3 or 4 years. So I would not have any objection if prior work experience in the city of Brockton was approved. For example, if someone in your department chose to go to an ordinance position and benefit from this, and they had worked for the city for 3 or 4 years, that's one thing if it was in Brockton. But I really would, and I'll have to defer to legislative counsel what the appropriate motion to amend would be, but I would like to see that stricken. I don't know how my colleagues feel about it, but it just leaves open a situation where we could hurt our employees who have been with us for a long period of time, and then someone comes in and jumps ahead of them with vacation credit. And I just think that's not fair. Just my opinion.
I also just want to disclose that I am an ordinance position as well, so I would benefit from a change here. But I don't think it's too hard to say if you want to make a motion to strike, you just say motion to strike that section.
And then I can offer a substitute?
Yes, you may.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to strike Section K.
In its entirety?
In its entirety.
Okay.
And you just want to change the language in it.
Yeah, and then I'm going
A motion's been made
Second.
and properly seconded to strike Section K in its entirety. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes, so we're striking that in its
And
entirety.
then I'd like to make a motion to insert in Section K, the mayor shall have authority to grant additional vacation time to a City of Brockton employee who has served the City of Brockton in a prior position.
Do you have that written down, or can you repeat it?
I'm sorry?
Did you write that down, or can you repeat it?
I
it's
didn't write it
basically it.
down, but the mayor shall have the authority to grant additional vacation time to an
Prior City of Brockton
prior
employee.
City of Brockton employee who served in another position.
On it.
I just want to try to keep it simple, but you can beef it up with some legal language if you want.
Without creating a conflict,
It could be
yes.
the same as this, except you're taking other municipalities and you're just putting it in Brockton.
Is that,
Get that?
Yes, I
yeah,
just feel
it's
the
the-
need to
it's-
comment. I think that that's done.
So I was just going to say, John O'Donnell, our chair of our Board of Assessors, who was one of the ordinance employees who worked on this project, just informed me that we believe that the current language in the ordinance provides for that already, but
Based on longevity. So
Yeah,
you
so I-
could be in the union 20 years, come ordinance, you're going to keep going.
okay. So if I could, Madam Chair, so if
Counselor,
someone
question.
came over from the police department, a civilian employee, and had worked,
20 years.
well, 5 years over there, and then they took an ordinance position here, maybe in the finance office, they would get credit for the 5 years of,
Yeah, it's based on your, it's based on your anniversary date.
well, then I guess I can strike the strike.
Right.
We don't have anything.
K is dead.
We don't
So
need
we're
anything.
just,
You didn't have a second on the motion anyways.
no.
So if you
Okay,
just want to
good.
withdraw the motion, you're all set. And then basically the ordinance would just read as is with section K struck in.
Okay. Any other questions,
I
Counselor?
had,
Counselor Rodriguez?
I remember when we first met to discuss this, I had a little bit of an issue with the length of service. Do you remember that, Madam?
I believe your issue was about
How quickly you could get, you're eligible for those
quickly you
vacations?
can accrue. So that would be in,
In A, Article 3, Section A.
no, I think Article A, oh,
Subsection. Where it actually begins, every employee occupying a full-time position subject to classification, and then it says granted 2 weeks vacation with pay and 4 days of personal pay after completing 90 days.
yes, that was the section you had questions about last time.
Right, because I thought it was, 90 days for you to get, you've been here 3 months and you're going to get 2 weeks off and then you quit. I want it to be so that it actually got spread out. Perhaps adding something like after 6 months you get 1 week, and after completing 1 year you get your second week, or eligible for 2 weeks. So you don't just come in for 90 days and then you get, technically take 2 weeks and leave. Because usually you have the probationary period, which is, 180 days or 90 days?
Sometimes people write in that you earn it, you just can't use it.
You can earn it, but I don't want you to use it. So you, after 1 year, you're eligible for 2 weeks. Correct?
Yeah, this says after 90 days, you get 2 weeks and 4 personal weeks.
But which technically is a year's worth of employment, because you're getting 2 weeks per year.
Correct.
You're
So
eligible to
After your 90
take-
days, your 2 weeks accrue.
Correct.
So you wouldn't have anything to use in the first 90 days.
Right, but I'm
So
just
you'd
saying,
like to see that be 180 days.
6 months. You get 1 week.
Yep, and then,
And then after you complete the whole year worth of unemployment, you can either, if you didn't take one before, then now you're eligible to take 2 weeks. Because I don't think, again, it's fair with somebody coming in, you're still going through your probationary period, and technically, after you complete 90 days, here's your 2 weeks, go on vacation, and then ciao, you're moving on to somebody else, to somewhere else. I think if you're committed to our city and in the employment in our city, I think after 6 months, you should be eligible to take 1 week. And then after completing the next 6 months, then you're eligible to take the second week, or if you hadn't take the first week, you can have 2 weeks after completing 1 year.
then,
Madam Chair, if I might, Because I think
CFO.
that I would suggest a guidepost here for the members of the committee. Because if you look at the spreadsheet that we prepared, the template generally for the unionized employees, if you look down, they are all over the place, but many of them have a threshold of 30 weeks, which is
7 months.
little more than 6 months, right? But after completion of 30 weeks, you get the 2 weeks. Up to, and then on your anniversary, you get that 2 weeks. Up till you have 3 years of service, then it goes to 3 weeks. So that's for 1, 2, 3, 4, at least half of our unions, that's the accrual process. One of the unions actually has a more, what I would suggest is a more traditional, that you actually accrue as you go. So you earn vacation time and can use it from your very first day, but you have to work to then accrue that time. That's pretty standard and pretty common. So less than 1 year is prorated, less than 2 years, that's fire. Police, in the first year, you get 5 working days, which is essentially a week, although, their shifts are a little different than the rest of folks. But other than public safety, the standard across the board is at 30 weeks, you get 2 weeks, and then on your anniversary, you get those 2 weeks, each of your first 3 years. And then after 3 years, you jump up to 3 weeks. 5 to 10 years is 4 weeks. 10 plus years, some of them are 5, some of them are 6.
Thank you, CFO.
Can I go back?
Counselor? Yep.
Well, you know what, I think a better suggestion, since you just quoted all those numbers for our unionized folks, is 30 weeks. I think it would be fair for us to put this in here as 30 weeks as well. After completing 30 weeks of service, you get 2 weeks. So that way, it's across the board, the same for everybody. And I'd like to make that in a form of a motion to amend that to state 30 weeks, if we could.
I'll
There's a
second
motion.
that.
There's a motion that's been properly seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Sure. You all set, Counselor Rodriguez? Okay, Counselor Fowler?
A point of information to you or even to Mr. O'Donnell. In the private sector, when we hire someone, especially, we definitely want to bring them on board. We used to have what was called a pre-hire agreement that they'd already booked a cruise or they had a family vacation. Do we accommodate people now without writing that into an ordinance? If we hire someone and they say, look, I've already paid for a 10-day or 7-day cruise, I need time off even though it's three months in the future. Do we handle that?
No pay. They don't get paid.
No, right, unpaid, but we would still take them on board, but allow them to take the time off?
Yeah, I described my own story. When I started here, it was in 2019. I had already booked my annual vacation with my wife, and so I started on February 19th, and a month later,
Okay.
took
I
that
just
trip.
want to make sure we're flexible like that. You don't get paid, but at least we will let you take the time off.
Sure.
And you still get the job.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All set? All set, Counselor? So do we have a motion
Motion to recommend the entire thing.
Correct.
as amended?
Correct.
So moved.
Motion's been made to send this back favorably to the full city council as amended. All those in favor? All those opposed? It passes.
Cool.
Thank you
We're
very
all
much.
set. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you,
Happy
councilors.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. With no further business before us, this meeting's adjourned.
Amen. Amen. Let's say that again.
Amen.
Amen.
You are funny.
But listen, I think that was a good compromise.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
All right, see you Saturday.